Welcome to the Southern Underworld, your place for original horror, sci-fi, and thriller content where the stories are always written with heart. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We'd love to know in what part of the world you are watching and what is your favorite horror movie of all time. Thank you for watching and enjoy the video. Day of the Dead is not merely a remake, it is a reanimation. Rising from the shadow of George A. Romero's 1985 classic, Steve Miner's 2008 reinterpretation breathes new life into the undead, crafting an experience that is both viscerally terrifying and psychologically unsettling. Though it never quite reaches the legendary status of its predecessor, this film dares to tinker with the mythology of the zombie genre, offering an audacious twist on what it means to be human and what it means to lose that humanity. From the opening moments, the film plunges into dread. A small Colorado town is besieged by an infection that spreads faster than comprehension, a sickness that devours the body while leaving eerie remnants of the mind intact. The military presence in the town is suffocating, but even their rigid order is no match for what lurks in the shadows. What begins as a routine quarantine quickly unravels into a waking nightmare as the infected exhibit behaviors that defy expectations. The film centers on Sarah Bowman, a National Guard soldier thrust into the chaos alongside a team of ill-prepared comrades. Sarah is more than a survivor. She is the last tether to reason in a world consumed by madness. She moves through the film with hardened resolve, but beneath her soldier's exterior, there is something deeply human, a glimmer of empathy that separates her from the doomed masses. She is not merely fighting to live, she is fighting to understand. And understanding is where the true horror lies. The infected are not mindless. They are something worse. They remember, they think, and in some cases, they feel. One of the most disturbing aspects of Day of the Dead is its portrayal of zombies as fractured echoes of their former selves. It is an unsettling perversion of the human condition, a monster that knows it was once a man. This warped reflection of humanity sets the film apart. Traditional zombie narratives often rely on the stark contrast between the living and the dead, but Day of the Dead revels in the gray space between them. If an infected being retains memories, emotions, or even a semblance of conscience, can it still be considered a monster? And if the living are willing to extinguish those remnants without question, are they not the true monsters? The military's presence looms large, an institution grappling with an enemy it neither understands nor controls. Unlike many genre films that paint the armed forces as either saviors or villains, this film takes a more insidious approach. It shows them as desperate, their authority is eroding by the second, their weapons becoming futile against an enemy that cannot be reasoned with. As the infection spreads, so too does the realization that the hierarchy of power has shifted. The undead are not merely a threat, they are an inevitability. The moment one soldier hesitates, the infection tightens its grip, transforming order into carnage. But the true horror of Day of the Dead does not lie in the inevitable bloodshed, it lies in the transformation itself. The infection does not simply kill, it corrupts. Flesh twists and decays at an unnatural speed. Limbs move with a terrifying combination of instinct and memory. The infected are neither fully human nor fully monster, and that liminal state is what makes them so profoundly disturbing. They are trapped in a purgatory of hunger, caught between the echoes of their former lives and the relentless drive to consume. The film's effects are unrelenting in their brutality. The transformation sequences are grotesque, blood sprays in thick arterial bursts, skin sloughs off in gelatinous sheets. The practical effects work in tandem with rapid, disorienting cinematography, creating an experience that is both immersive and deeply unsettling. There is no moment of respite, no breath of relief, only an unending descent into horror. The tension is not merely external, it festers within the characters themselves. Trust is a scarce commodity, paranoia an ever-present specter. Sarah and her dwindling allies are not merely fighting the infected. They are fighting one another, struggling to maintain their grip on reason as fear takes root. Thematically, Day of the Dead delves into existential dread. It does not simply ask what happens when the dead rise. It asks what happens when the living begin to lose themselves in the process. How much of oneself can be sacrificed before nothing remains? Is survival worth it if what survives is no longer human? The film does not provide easy answers. Instead, it forces the viewer to linger in the unease, to sit with the questions long after the credits roll. For all its strengths, the film is not without its shortcomings. The pacing, while relentless, sometimes undermines its own tension. Moments that could have been drawn out for maximum dread are instead rushed, giving the audience little time to process the horror before the next wave crashes down. Some characters lack the depth needed to make their fates truly impactful. And while the concept of thinking zombies is undeniably compelling, it is not always explored to its fullest potential. Yet these flaws do not diminish the film's effectiveness. Day of the Dead does not seek to replicate Romero's vision. It seeks to evolve it. It is not content with mindless hordes and predictable carnage. It wants to unnerve, to challenge, to twist the knife of fear in an unexpected direction. The film's final act is a crescendo of terror. As the infection reaches its apex, so too does the desperation. The remaining survivors must confront not just the monsters outside, but the monsters they have become. The final confrontation is not merely a battle for survival, it is a reckoning. The question is no longer how to escape, but whether if escape is even possible. Day of the Dead may not be the definitive zombie film, but it is a bold and haunting entry in the genre. It strips away the comforting certainty of the living versus the dead and replaces it with something far more disturbing. The realization that the boundary between the two is far thinner than we would like to believe. It is a film that lingers and festers in the mind. For those seeking a horror film that does more than just thrill, for those who want to feel the chill of dread creep up their spine, Day of the Dead is an experience not to be missed. It is a nightmare that refuses to fade, a descent into terror that is as thought-provoking as it is horrifying. Day of the Dead is an action, sci-fi zombie horror thriller that is 1 hour and 26 minutes long and is rated R. The Southern Underworld gives it 4 bloody knives.